Chris here with another of Doogee's rugged phones. This is their S10 Pro. Now it is very similar in looks and pretty much everything compared to the VMAX that I just recently reviewed. The only difference is with this model, it has this very powerful LED light on the back of it, which they call the camping light, which makes sense. That's probably where you would use it if you went camping. Super bright. And it means that you probably don't have to take along a separate torch because it's built into your phone, just like a battery bank, because it's got that 22,000 milliamp hour battery. It can go for up to 10 days on a single charge. The other difference is it's powered by the Helio G99, so more powerful than the Dimensity 1080 that is in their VMAX model. The rest of it, the same, so we've got the drop-resistant build IP68 rating to this rugged phone. It's powered by Android 12. It has a 108 megapixel main camera, and it also does have the same IPS screen, which is a 6.58 inch size screen, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and 256 gigabytes of expandable storage. Now this is an incredibly heavy phone because it's basically like walking around with a portable battery bank. Just like the VMAX I've also reviewed from Doogee, very similar weight here, so 546 grams. Yes, that is one of the heaviest phones I have ever covered. And the thickness of it too, it is 27.3 millimeters. So yes, a chunky phone that I think is going to be ideal and more aimed towards really builders, tradesmen, and people that don't want to charge their phone every second day or every day, because this will go, my experience with the battery life, it's around about 10-11% I lose per day. So it will go for most people from about 6 to 10 days with that huge 22,000 milliamp hour battery. So that's why it's so chunky, of course. So the loudspeaker is here at the bottom, one at the top, 32 megapixel selfie camera. The bezels, yes, they are large. So we've got right here Gorilla Glass 5 covering this IPS panel. It's the same screen as the VMAX, so it's a 1080p plus resolution, and it's 6.58 inches IPS, and I'll get onto it in a little more detail shortly. So as long as you keep this little gasket cover here over the Type-C port, I'll just pull that out to show you, there's the Type-C port, no video out support, USB 2 spec here. It will retain, as long as you've got it over there, the IP68 waterproof rating. Now, because it's got all the rubber around it, the metal that's screwed into the sides of it, it does have a military standard drop resistance. So it is the 810H compliant, so it's 1.5 meters onto concrete. This phone should be fine, although you'll probably have a bit of a ding in the rubber wherever it lands there, and you hope it doesn't land on the screen either. So capacitive always on fingerprint reader here on the right hand side. I'll just demonstrate it. It's a little slow at times, but it works okay. I find it works about 8-9 times out of 10. Our volume up and down button, that feels like to me that could actually be plastic, this button, but the side here is metal. And then on this side we have a button that you can designate to whatever you want, application or launch something. I have it set to turn on the rear flash, the camera flash that is for it. And here we have our SIM tray. So you don't even need a SIM tray tool for it. It takes 2 nano SIMs or 1 nano SIM and a micro SD card. So great, we have expandability, but you see up the top here, there's no IR transmitter, no 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And then on the back here, this is why I think it's a phone ideal for people that go on camping trips. Maybe you're a hiker or something. So you got the amazing battery life and the reverse charge. So it's basically a battery bank with a phone built around it, but this super powerful Cobb style LED light here. Now you can see me testing it out at night. This was about 11 p.m. So it was very dark, yet it lights up quite a bit ahead of it. So it will certainly be handy. This could light up your whole, for example, tent, if you're going camping or something with a tent. And then we've got our cameras. So we have a 20 megapixel night vision camera. So it's just black and white, and it uses the infrared lights here to the side of it. We have a ultra wide and then two-tone LED flash, and then the main camera in the middle is 108 megapixels. So it is, again, the same setup as the VMAX from Doogee, but the difference being we have this powerful light, and it is powered by the Helio G99 instead of the Dimensity 1080. Now the IPS panel that they've selected is a bit disappointing. So the same issue I had with the VMAX from them is that it's simply not bright enough, this screen. I'm measuring just over 330 nits with this IPS panel, and in direct sunlight you will struggle a little to make out the screen, which doesn't kind of make sense too much considering it's an outdoor focused orientated phone, but when you use it in direct sunlight, say for GPS or maps, you struggle a little. You can still make it out, but I really do wish it was a lot brighter. Now, being an IPS, the blacks don't look super deep, and the whites here, you'll see that at certain angles around where, say, the notches at the top and the edges, you do get a little bit of shadowing on the corners where it's slightly darker than the rest of it, but the rest of the panel is quite uniform, the color of it. Now, I'll just go into the settings here. So gestures are working well. The performance is very good of this phone. It's one of the big positives of it. And you'll see here under display that we do get a few options. Adaptive brightness, I've got that off at the moment. There's a few things in here. You'll see that you can adjust the font size and whatnot, but there are no settings again here for the color. Now, I would have seen it under here, something like mirror vision should pop up, being the fact that it's MediaTek powered. Then you can adjust the white balance, your saturation and all those things, but no, we are missing that. So I do hope they can give us this option with a firmware update. Now, speaking about the software here, now that I'm on that topic pretty much of the performance of it, it is very good. So stock Android, we've got 12 gigabytes of RAM, which they claim it's 20. It does state it here on the box. Look, 20 gigabytes, 12 plus 8 gigabytes of RAM. But it's because we have allocated, you'll see in the settings right here, it's virtual memory, so memory expansion, okay? This is just caching, it's not actual RAM. So it's 12 gigabytes of RAM, which is still fine, and 256 gigabytes of storage. Again, excellent. So the gestures work well, animations look pretty good. It's only a 60 Hertz panel too, this one, but it really is lag-free, bloat-free, stock Android 12 ROM that we do get with the S100 Pro. Now, there are a few extras they have included with the software. So one of them is we have this, which is our camping light on the back there that is super bright that I talked about before, showed you that example of. It tends to work well there, the software, no issues with it. We have what is called their tool bag. So there are some tools in there, picture hanging using the accelerometers for your level, a few other bits and pieces. That would come in handy for tradesmen probably if you didn't happen to have your tools on you. Maybe you're on a job site doing a quote and you accidentally left something behind. Well, there's a few things in there that could be useful to you. There is also this FM radio, hardware FM radio, but you do need to, of course, get yourself an adapter, 3.5 millimeter to Type-C, then that will work because it does double as the antenna for it. So that's why it has to be plugged in, because just using it now, it will not work, because it won't be able to pick up any stations. So the performance, as I said just before, it's all pretty much good here. When you're going through your recent apps, that all works fine. I don't have any complaints with it. In fact, the performance-wise is better than the VMAX model. And you'll see here too that this is what you get once you get it out of the box. No bloatware whatsoever. Really good to see. And there was no system updates yet. So there is definitely going to be some updates coming because I found the camera application to be buggy. I'll just show you that very quickly what happens. So when you go to use the camera, you want to shoot video, it'll lock up now, okay? So it won't let me change over. Nothing's going to happen. So that's the bug that I've had currently present with my model, that it just doesn't want to work. Now video, I've been able to record some sample footage with the front-facing camera and the rear using open camera, but if you try and use the stock app for video with the main camera, simply does not work. So they're going to need a patch for that one, of course. So just getting back here into the update, so that's going to have to come through an update. The side key that I showed you before, so you can change this. I've got it set to the flashlight. You can put it, for example, to GPS, Google Maps, whatever you want. You've got 3 options, so just a single tap, double, and a long press there. Handy to have. So will it work with banking apps and things? Yes, we do have a safety status here, Safetynet pass. And if you look, there is NFC on board with this particular model here too, which is another positive. Good to see that. Camera 2 API support. So if you want to use OpenCam, which I have for the video sample you'll see later on, it is working. Gcam ports, you might be able to squeeze a bit more out of that 108 megapixel sensor than their software, which is very poor at the moment for the camera app. It does not have a Widevine level 1 cert, so sadly when I tested out, of course, Netflix, this is from within Netflix, checking out the playback spec, it's stuck in standard definition. Oh dear. So yes, you're only watching in 480p, not full HD. Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, all of those. Internal storage speeds are very good, so this is not going to be a bottleneck for the system at all. You can see those are good, almost reaching 1,000 megabytes per second reads. And the chipset itself, decent performance. Now, this is now the new version of Antutu, so it's slightly different. The scores are slightly higher, so it's version 10. So if this was version 3, it would be about 380,000 points, but this is not bad. So 400, just over 400,000 points. It shows that it's got a decent amount of performance. The weakness is the GPU, which I'll get onto later for the gaming side of things. And that is it when it comes to just pointing out a few things there. So good performance overall for this type of phone here. But let's take a look and a listen, should I say, at those loudspeakers.
50 to 60 millimeters of travel. You can lock it out at the top, and then we do have adjustable preload too with it. So it's a hardtail, there's no shock on.
And this is one area where it is better than the VMAX that I also reviewed from Doogee. Now that's got the Dimensity 1080 in it, and it was very choppy playing even just this parts of the map with Genshin Impact. Now I've got it on the default settings here, so this is not the max settings, but I do have it set to at least 60 frames per second.
I'll race you there.
And you can see that performance is a lot better here. So it's definitely playable. This is the key area, I would say, and the key reason why you would go for this model over the VMAX would be for the improved performance from the the Helio G99. It's just so much better than that Dimensity chipset. For gaming performance, it's just a lot better. And over to the cameras now. So this is the front-facing camera. We've only got 1080p. It doesn't seem to have any electronic image stabilization. And I do find often the camera application is crashing on me. At least when I go over to video with the main camera, it often will just completely freeze out the app. So there are clearly some bugs there that Doogee needs to fix. So this quality, pretty average. I'll just face the sun now. It really does need electronic image stabilization because it does shake all around all over the place here with our vlog footage. Ultra wide footage now. Now this just looks terrible. I don't know what's going on here. It looks like standard definition that's been upscaled to full HD. Again, no electronic image stabilization. It's over sharpened, it's overexposing, and it just looks awful. Main camera, just 1080p. Doesn't seem to be a 4K option, and just like the front-facing camera and like the VMAX that I also reviewed from Doogee, there is no electronic image stabilization, which kind of ruins the footage here. So you need a very steady hand or probably a gimbal or even a tripod. In the cameras, we've got a 108 megapixel camera, and you can see from this in daylight that yes, you can take some very good looking shots. The colors aren't too bad of this yellow flower, but I don't see it as the same level as some of the other 108 megapixel cameras. This one just seems a little bit over sharpened when you do crop in, but it can take, I think, usable shots for most people and above average compared to some of the other rugged phones out there that have worse off sensors. So that's the main camera cropped in now, and then the ultra wide here, which is the 16 megapixel ultra wide. The quality again is alright in daytime. This is a selfie 32 megapixel front facing camera, and when you crop in there's a fair amount of detail. Again, not too bad, but night shots, there is no night mode to start with. There's also no portrait mode, and the night shots, a lot of noise, and it's like cameras from phones from about like 5 years ago really, the quality, and that's the selfie there in low light, which yeah, huge amounts of noise, not good at all. And then they do have this, which is the 20 megapixel camera. You can shoot video with it. This is 1080p footage using the infrared lights and that camera. It's a complete darkness here, so it looks just black and white like that. And what it comes down to is a phone that is almost identical to the Doogee VMAX that I reviewed, as mentioned a few times in this video. The only difference is this has the better performance, so if you game a lot, then it's probably the phone to go for. If you need, of course, the camping light. If you go on camping trips, you don't want to charge for a week, and it's a phone that's got you covered because you've got your flashlight, you've got your battery bank, and your phone, GPS and all that, all in one. And by the way, the GPS is working just fine on this model. It didn't have any problems getting a lock. So the big pro of this is, I think, the drop resistance, the build quality being rugged, and of course that battery life. The 22,000 milliamp hour battery is humongous. It is huge, and it just goes and goes and goes. I lose around about 11% per day only with this. So for even lighter use, you will probably be able to get and squeeze 10 days out of this particular phone here. It really is a battery bank with a phone built around it. But because of the issues I'm having with the camera on this model here, the fact that there's no night mode, there's no portrait mode, and the video mode seems to freeze up on me with the main camera all the time, I lean towards the VMAX. And I really do think that if you're looking at these rugged phones and you want that amazing battery life, go for the Doogee VMAX instead of this one. They're so similar. If you really do need the flashlight, okay, that's the only real reason, but I would go for the VMAX model instead of this S100 Pro. So thank you so much for watching my review here of this Doogee phone.